available right here. Order yours today and get a free wheelchair case, a $50 value, yours free. The Feather Chair, the world's lightest wheelchair, is just $4.99 with easy payments as low as $16 a month. Sorry, no Medicare or insurance accepted. So call right now to order yours.
800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. That's 800-823-5826.
And St. Jude's. Childhood Cancer Awareness Month was first officially recognized in the U.S. in 1990 by President George Bush.
calls me and lets me know that the specialist, is a retina specialist, said, nope, it's a single tumor, it's cancer, retinoblastoma. And so in the late 90s, and it's a very, very rare cancer. For my mom, I was in shock because I thought, A-okay, it's not his life we're concerned about, it's his eye. I said, okay. Obviously, it makes me very nervous, but we'll go watch it. So we went back.
If you're trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much till it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day program to replace your old habits with new habits and totally change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581.
Attention all business owners and creative minds. Do you need a unique and personalized touch for your products? Look no further than Romika Laser Engraving and Custom Designs. I'm Ron Phillips, co-owner of Romika Designs. We offer custom laser engraving services for a variety of products, including promotional items and corporate or personal gifts. With state-of-the-art equipment and a team of skilled designers, we can engrave intricate designs on virtually any material. Whether it's a special message, a company logo, or a custom design, Romika Laser Engraving will help you make your mark. And the best part, our prices are affordable and our turnaround time is quick.
I couldn't be happier with the work Romika Laser Engraving did for me. The engraving on my product was precise and exactly what I wanted.
So don't wait any longer to add a personal touch to your products. Call Romika Laser Engraving and Custom Designs today at 817-400-4040 or visit our website at romikadesigns.com. We look forward to helping you make your mark.
Apple CarPlay, or just ask Alexa to play NTX Radio. Check out our lineup and more at ntxradio.com. We thank our valued sponsors in helping us amplify the voices of North Texas communities and businesses. So, protect your family with a will or trust. Connect with Todd Hurd and Associates, attorneys at law for all your civil law needs at texasattorneylaw.com. Processing credit cards? Join the Swipe Nation today and save on processing fees and swipe at swipenationusa.com. Locally owned and operated and will beat any rates. Got sleeves? Dress your arms and more at thetiffy.com for women's accessories and more, made in the USA. And it's time to take your business to the next level. Hosting a radio show and a podcast is a powerful way to connect with a wider audience, build brand awareness, and drive sales. Let's discuss your business goals and how a custom show can help you achieve them. Email Tiffany at third@ntxradio.com to get amplified. Okay, well, welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. All right. Well, we're going to share some statistics about childhood cancer, not to get into every single one because there's so many. But before we started the show, before we ended the first half, we were at sharing how many kids worldwide get cancer every year. So we said 400,000 children and teens ages from 0 to 19 get diagnosed every year. That's from the World Health Organization. And in the U.S., about 15 to 16,000 children and adolescents diagnosed annually. That's from the American Cancer Society.
I hate to hear those high numbers.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
I was trying to think, as far as populations are concerned of certain towns, like the town I live in is very small, 6,200. Well, that would be about that would be like 2.5, roughly. As far as it doesn't seem like a lot, but I'm like, it's a lot.
It is a lot.
And children should not be getting cancer. No one should,
Right.
Especially kids. And the one thing that a lot, you're thinking as a parent, like, did I do everything right?
Right.
Did I feed them the right things? Did
Right.
they get enough sleep? Did we go to the doctor enough? Did we check all the boxes off?
Right.
And here, it says that childhood cancer is one of the cancers that it's not about lifestyle. It's just for various reasons. It could be environmental. But as far as lifestyle is concerned, it has nothing to do, most of it, I would say 99% of it has nothing to do with lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And the more common cancer is leukemia. It's 28% out of all the cancers. So there's two types of leukemia. There's ALL, which is acute lymphoblastic leukemia. That is the most common. So that's 4 out of 5 kids get that one. And then acute myeloid leukemia, which is less common, is 1 out of 4, which is the one my son had, the AML. And then, goes on to brain cancer, which is, and nervous system tumors, 26%, lymphomas, 8 to 10%. Lymphoma is a cancer of the lymphatic system, including Hodgkin's and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Most of these statistics are going to be coming from the American Cancer Society. Neuroblastoma, which is cancer from immature nerve cells, usually in the adrenaline glands. Wilms tumor, which is a kidney cancer, mostly found in children. Bone cancer. And there's one here that I'm probably not going to say correctly, but it's I'll spell it: RHABDOMYO sarcoma, which is the cancer of muscle tissue. And then retinoblastoma is the one that your son had. Am I saying that correctly?
Retinoblastoma.
Right.
It's all these
fancy names.
All these medical terms are always fancy. Yes.
And it also talks about, like, boys are usually diagnosed more than girls. 53% are usually boys that get diagnosed. And then it talks about ethnicity and all those other things that, non-Hispanic, white, highest incidences and then Hispanic, American Indian, Alaska Native, Asian, Pacific Islander, and then African American. And says that the good news is, it says 5-year survival rate says over 80% in high income countries, often below 30% in low income countries. Well, if someone is not near or is not in an area where there's not good health care, or
Correct.
they can't get to health care quickly, or they don't have the money to do it, well, the survival rate's going to be much lower than someone who lives in a place where they can get to a hospital quickly. So, as devastating as childhood cancer is, or cancer in general, and no family expects it, there's this common denominator of, like, I remember when so just to give a backstory on how Allison and I know each other. So myself and Eva, we used to go to this networking group up in, very far.
Up north.
Up north. Was
Yes.
it Richardson or?
Plano.
Was it in Plano?
Yes.
And so Eva and I, so one of the reasons why we came up with this, we wanted to do a podcast, was because we would spend like an hour and 20 minutes going and an hour and 20 minutes coming back. So like about a 3-hour drive. And we would just talk about random stuff. And we thought at some point, I don't know how long into it, we were like, oh, we should just do a podcast. And so in one of the, I don't know, it was my first time, I think it was probably my first time going, I met Allison, and then I shared my story, because we all, you got up and you shared, who you are and whatnot. And it was very intimidating because I didn't know anyone there except Eva. And especially when it comes to something so vulnerable like that,
Right.
kind of information.
It's a raw thing.
It's a raw thing, right?
Yes.
And then in front of a bunch of strangers that you've never met, you don't know how it's going to be received.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it was received well, and everybody was very supportive. But I remember, we met, and afterwards, they have like a mingle part, and then
Yes.
Allison shared that her son had cancer, and it was just like this instant bond,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's such a tragic. I mean, regardless if your child has survived or not, it's such a traumatic time in your life, but there's this bond, like, oh, you get it, right? And that's the common thread,
Of course.
right? When, regardless of race, regardless of culture, regardless, even if you can't speak someone's language, but if you manage, I remember one time there was this parent that didn't speak any English and they didn't speak Spanish, so I couldn't communicate with them, but they just started crying. And we cried together. And that was the common thread.
Right.
We could not communicate verbally to each other, but we understood what we were both going through.
There's
at
an
that
emotional
moment.
connection.
Right.
Yes.
And it didn't matter that she didn't speak any English. It didn't matter that we couldn't communicate, but we understood that our kids were suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And we just hugged and we sat there and we cried for about a good 10, 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like this instant connection. And, now we have this Childhood Cancer Awareness Month that brings people together. Either there's parents right now sitting in the hospital that are going through this diagnosis, or you're 26 years later, or 10 years later.
Or you're actually losing a child right at this point,
Or
planning a funeral, unfortunately.
Or unfortunately, you're planning a funeral currently for your child, and it's a very raw pain. Whatever part of the journey you're at, there's something that brings us together when there's something like this going on. I remember they used to have, well, they still have, but when we were there, like once a week, I think it was on Thursdays, they had this on the unit. They had, just for parents that their kids were inpatient, they had this like therapy session and support group therapy session kind of thing. And it was just so wonderful to be part of that. And that was the one thing that I said, I'm going to do for myself. And my husband didn't really want to go, although he went once or twice, but I went every time they had it. If anything, I need to at least be able to express myself somehow.
Of course.
And met such wonderful people there. And people that I'm still friends with today.
Right.
And we're friends on Facebook. Every so often we still have lunch together. And it's just this communal thing that you can't.
You're part of a club. It's a horrible club to be a part of, but you're a club. Yeah.
You are. It is a horrible club to be part of. And so I'm just amazed at some of the stories that I've heard of people just rallying alongside each other and cheering each other on, and the hopeful stories of kids that survive, but even the ones that don't, the community. My sister, that was the one thing, like when my son passed away, and she and her husband and her kids came to the funeral, and they stayed a few days and then they left, and she shared this like long thing on Facebook about how impressed she was as far as the support that she saw and the outpouring of love. And she said she expressed on there she's never seen anything like that. And now she understood why we loved being around here for so long and why we wouldn't want to leave, because she saw such a, like, it was like family. For her, it was just an amazing thing to see and such a testimony to who God is. And, you know, the one thing my son said to me, and I didn't understand it maybe in its entirety when he said it, but it was before he actually had the diagnosis, but it was a couple hours before we went to go get blood work done. And we were at the hospital not far from my house, and the doctor, after going to the doctor's office, he said, I need you to go get some x-rays and blood work. And we went down there to do it, just me and him, me and my son. And I started crying as I was filling out the paperwork, because now I'm thinking worst case scenario.
Of course.
And he looked at me with his big 9-year-old eyes, and he says, Mamina, why are you crying? And I said, well, because I'm worried about you. And he put his hand on my lap and said, Mamina, it's okay. God is with us.
That's sweet.
And I didn't understand although I understood, I didn't really understand the entirety of that at that moment.
Sure.
And I thought it was very humbling that my 9-year-old had to remind me.
Right. He's comforting you.
That he's comforting me at that moment. But I understood it as time went on, how everybody rallied around us and how we had so many people from church visiting with us and bringing us food and even strangers that we didn't meet. Like, we created this Facebook page, and then even on there, like, you know, people that were local, they would, you know, rally us on, and even people from far, but if they were local, that, you know, they, you know, come by, and there were a couple of people that came by and gave us like a gift card to buy some food. And it was just like amazing that strangers would even come by and just walk alongside you. And I wish that was something that we can do continually. I wish it wasn't the tragedy didn't have to happen.
Yeah, they can just do it because they just want to be a good neighbor or something, you know?
Right,
yeah.
Right.
So what do you think, let me ask you a question. What do you think your son's legacy was for this short period of time he was here on the earth?
My son's legacy, well, I think for me, for a long time, I was trying to figure out what that was or what that is. And I think I tried so hard to do so many things to keep his memory alive that I was like kind of pulling myself in so many different directions. And, you know, me becoming a chaplain has been, for me, the testimony of his life and my husband's life, that those words that my son expressed, that God is with us. That's one of the, God shows us his love by loving us and dying on the cross. But the second way, a friend of mine shared this with me, God loves us, but the second way God shows that he's with us is that when he's just present. You know, the Bible in Isaiah says, Emmanuel, God with us. And when my son said that, and he said many other things, he said, you know, don't give up, hold on to Jesus, which is one of the things that I end the podcast with. And it's amazing that when your child says something to you, how profound it can affect you even years later.
Correct.
Like, I think that him saying that, if somebody else would have said it, God is with you, or God is with us, or don't give up, hold on to Jesus, although I would have thought about it, just something about your 9-year-old saying it to you.
Yes.
That doesn't, like, I think about Mary when the shepherds came and told her the good news of Jesus. And it says, the Bible says she pondered those things in her heart, because they were saying those things about her child, right? And this is the Son of God. And that was kind of like been my story as far as like being able to ponder those things. And so the comfort that I received, or that we received as a family, I want to do the same thing for other people. And just extending that love to all people, cultures, races, it doesn't matter. All people need to be loved.
Right.
and cared for and comforted. And in those moments, I'm not there to change anybody's mind about what they believe. I want to be present with them. And if they don't know who God is at that moment, even if I don't speak a word about God, I want them to know that they are loved and they are cared for and that they are not alone.
Right. You're just walking aside where they're at in that point in their journey.
So I don't like, isn't so that's like a lot of words, right? Like I to try to express, kind of narrow it down. I think for me, his legacy is just to be present with people, to love people, and to be with people where they are. And it was just as much as we wanted to be there for him, he was there for us. He shared so many comforting. I remember one time I don't think this is a story I shared yet on here. We were sitting in the bed, we were having worship together, and my mom was here visiting, and she was in the room. And in the middle of singing a song, he said to me, Mamino, is your faith like mine? And I kind of smiled a little bit, and I said, well, baby, like, faith is from God, and all things come from God. So our faith, my faith, your faith is from God. So it's a gift, so we can't take credit for it. And he looked at me and he said, well, you're right, Mamina. Because, Mamina, we're like lions, right? Nothing can defeat us. And again, I smiled. And I said, yes, baby, you're right. Nothing can defeat us. And then he said, this is all going to be over soon. And we're going to be under the same roof again. Now I'm trying to hold back tears at this point.
I would be too. Yeah.
And I said, yes, baby, this is all going to be over soon. And we're going to be under the same roof again. Then he paused for a few seconds and said, he looked at me and says, Amina, remember, nothing can separate us from the love of God. In all those like moments, he was in the hospital for 5 months. We would not have had he, I don't know, not survived as long as he did. When I tell people 5 months, they're like, oh my gosh, that was so short. It was short, but there was a lot of like special moments like that. And although we were there to comfort him, in those moments, I felt comforted by God.
Right.
So I think that's my son's legacy.
Right. He had a lot of wisdom for being so young.
Yeah. Looking back on it, yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And, 9 going on 40.
Yeah. But he needed to, I think, leave his legacy because he wanted to make sure you and your husband and your, his brother were okay.
Yeah. He didn't really talk too much about dying or actually ever talk about, am I going to die? I'm sure he had thoughts about it, but never really shared those thoughts with us. Like I said, he was very reflective.
But he was going home to God. He knew he was just going, he was going to see you one day. Just, yeah. Yeah.
He had hope. And I think he came to terms with that, that he probably believed in his heart that he wasn't going to survive. Although I think we were always very hopeful.
Of course. You always believe in that miracle.
Yeah, you always believe in that miracle.
Yes.
It's not, when there's breath, there's hope.
Yes.
And so, there's a lot of Bible verses that Jesus, for kids, Jesus was so he had such a tender spot for kids. And the Bible has so many, a few verses that I wanted to share. Matthew 19:14 says, but Jesus said, let the little children come to me and do not hinder them, for such belongs to the kingdom of heaven. And Psalm 127:3 says, children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from him. Isaiah 40 verse 11 says, he will tend his flock like a shepherd. He will gather the lambs and in his arms. He will carry them in his bosom and gently lead those that are with the young. He took a little child whom he placed among him. Taking the child in his arms, he said to them, whoever welcomes one of these little children in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me does not welcome me, but the one who sent me. For him, children were so profound, and it even talks about kids, from the lips of babes. And I always think about all the words that he said, and I thought, from the lips of babes, and I've heard countless stories about the parents that were in the hospital that their kids said something to them, and it's still to this day has stuck with them. And it's those words that keeps them going, right? And childhood cancer is one of those topics that you could probably talk for. It's endless, right? There's so many things that you can talk about. And I would, for those that are thinking about, well, I've never heard of childhood cancer, or maybe you're in the middle of that right now, or you know someone that's in the middle of that, how can I support them during this time? How can I be there for them? One way is just, sometimes you just got to do. Asking is good, but when someone is going through that kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
their brain is so filled with so much information. They don't know what they need. Just be present and just listen, because people will make you aware of what is needed. And I remember when my son was sick, and I had my youngest still, who was only 6 at that time. And a friend of mine said, if you ever need me to keep Lucas, let me know. Well, guess what? Like 2 days later, something came up that I needed to be at the hospital, and I couldn't pick my son up from school. And I called her and I said, hey, I need this. Can you help me? And she said, absolutely. And she's like, if you want, I could even keep him for the night, and I will take him to school. And I said, that would be great. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And so it's just things like that. If you just listen long enough, or make an offer of something, and at least the person can think about it, dwell on it. And when that need comes up, if it comes up, you will be probably one of the first people that they will reach out. Absolutely. But just be present, just listen. If you want to, people want to be needed, and we understand that, because when someone's going through that you care about, a friend, a family member, mm-hmm. you kind of feel helpless.
Yes.
And, but just, listening to that person, being present, sometimes it's just holding their hand and being in a room and being silent, mm-hmm. and crying, mm-hmm. or letting them cry and not mm-hmm. telling them how they should feel. Mm-hmm. We're not telling them that they should have more faith, but just being present and just holding them at that mm-hmm. moment. And maybe bringing food is helpful. Maybe bringing a gift card to Starbucks is helpful. Mm-hmm. Whatever that may be.
Maybe bringing toys to the kid that is well, or bringing toys to the kid that isn't well in the hospital. But, whatever you can do makes a difference.
Yeah, my son had a ton of stuffed animals in his room.
Oh, I can imagine.
He loved stuffed animals. He
loved that.
He was like sweet. A big animal lover. And so they brought him, especially he loved reptiles, he loved sharks, he loved all those things.
That.
And so, but we're getting to a minute and a little under a minute of our podcast. Now, again, we're sorry for the technical difficulties.
It happens. It's all good. It's all good. We go with the flow. We go with the flow.
But, we're just grateful that you were able to join us this evening. And, one way to help kids with cancer, even if you don't know anybody in your life, is, call your local hospital, children's hospital, mm-hmm. and, you can ask them how you can help, donate toys or books or canned goods or food for the parents, or maybe financial monetary gifts, or have your church kind of help out with that as well. But we're hoping that this was helpful to you and that you learned a lot. And there's our music. So like we always end our podcast, keep looking up and don't give up. Hold on to Jesus. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.
So when's Eva coming? When's she coming back?